CSIS 2470 is filmed before a live studio audience.
Hey everybody, welcome to class. Today we're going to be talking about local storage. What the heck is local storage? The short version is, as you know, with JavaScript, since it runs locally in the browser, when you close the page, any changes you made to the DOM disappear. Well, you can prevent that from happening. You can actually store stuff in the browser so that the next time you come to the page, it maintains your state. Now, normally that kind of thing is done with back-end stuff with PHP and maybe cookies or, storing something in a database when the user is logged in or all kinds of stuff. But we're going to build a simple little application here just to demonstrate a couple of functions that you need to be able to manipulate local storage. So take a look at a demo right now of the thing we're about to build, and then we'll come back and build it. All right, what we're about to build here is a simple little program that once you put your name in here, it'll display a little sticky note looking thing and let you type a note into it. And then if you close the browser and come back to it, it'll still remember your note. That's basically it. So my name is Beavis, and now it says welcome Beavis, and I can type a note if I want. You can notice that my cursor is blinking there all ready to go. And if I just say change the oil, that's it. I didn't type save. I'm not pushing any other buttons or anything like that. But if I were to refresh the page right now, that note will still be there and it'll still say welcome Beavis. And I just did refresh. And I'm going to copy the URL there, close the browser, reopen it, paste it in there. And you can see that it's still there. It still says change the oil, still says welcome Beavis. And then I can just reset it by clicking reset, and it clears it all out. It cleared out the local storage. That's it. Really simple little app. It's about 40 lines of code. It's not too complicated. And we're only going to learn 3 new functions. Everything else is stuff we've done a million times. So there you have it. Right now that you've seen it live in action, let's take a look at how to build it. So there ain't nothing to it but to do it to the code. So starting off here, I have just some basic HTML and I got a little bit of CSS here. Not much, right? We'll talk about some of it in a minute, but there's no need for me to style this up on camera. So let's just start with the basics here. This is the body, obviously, and it's set to display flex. And that being the case, and you can see there are 1, 2, 3, 4 direct children of the body. Therefore, those are the 4 flex items. And I've set the flex direction to be columns so that everything's stacked on top of each other. Okay, so let's expand those back out here. And if we look at that in the page, this is what it looks like. That's the H1, that's the web form. This is the note, which is a div that has a paragraph inside of it, and then we have the reset button. Okay, so that's what we have here. Now we want, of course, to be able to type a note in here, and normally you can't just type in a paragraph or a div or whatever, but there's a cool little property or attribute that's called content editable, and so you can add it to any tag in HTML. So we're just going to add it to the paragraph. Content editable equals true. Now that it's true, if I refresh the page and I click on there, now I can type whatever. Now, of course, if I reload the page or come back to it, that goes away. Well, we want that note to stay, right? So if I make a note to myself, I want that note to stay there. The other thing I want to do is I don't want to show them the note at all, the sticky note or the reset button, until they've entered their name. So once they enter their name, we're going to store their name in local storage, and we're going to show them the note and the reset button. Okay, but let's baby step our way through it. Let's start off in our JavaScript here, and we're going to want to get a hold of the value that's here. We're going to want to have an event handler for that. We're going to want to get a hold of the value that's inside of here in this paragraph, and we're going to want an event handler for that. I think that makes some sense. We're also going to change this, as you saw in the demo, to say welcome Beavis or whatever their name is, right? So we're going to need to get hold of that. So let's just make a whole bunch of variables here. We'll say let heading equal document dot query selector h1. That's the welcome message. We'll say let submit equal document dot query selector, and we'll get the input that has a type equal to submit. So that gives us the H1 right there. That gives us the button right there. And then let's go ahead and get the let input equal document dot query selector input type equals text. And we might want to call that their name. Let's call it that. So now we got that, and that. I also want to get this whole div here so I can make it disappear. So we'll call it let note. I don't know, what do we want to call it? Let's look at it in our code here. Oh, I had called it sticky, so we'll call that sticky too. Why not? Let sticky equal document dot query selector sticky. So that gives me the actual whole sticky note. And again, the structure there is this div is wrapping the H2 that says note and the note that they're going to type, right? We also want to get that paragraph, so we'll actually call that the note, right? So we'll say let note equal document dot query selector the paragraph. Okay, so we're just setting up all the variables that we're going to need to do stuff to, right? And I think the last thing we're going to need is that reset button, which is just a button here. You can see just called reset. So let button document dot query selector button. Now, obviously, if I had more than one button, I'd have to do something besides query selector if I had more than one paragraph or whatever. But because there's only one of all of these things, I can just do it the way that I did. Okay, I've got everything now. So next up, we're just going to ignore the note and the reset for now. When they enter their name, we're going to store it in local storage. Okay, so let's do that. So we have the sub button. So sub.add event listener, and it takes in, of course, the click. The click is the thing we're listening for. And let's go ahead and do our favorite arrow function with our favorite syntax that I hate. Let's do it. Why not? All right, so what are we going to do when they click? First thing I need to do is get whatever they typed, right? So let's see what they typed. Well, I have the name right there on line 3, right? So I can say, let's just do console.log name.value, right? That should be pretty straightforward. So let's just start there. Open up the console and refresh. And when I type Beavis, right? So we've got the name. Great. Let's stick it in local storage instead of consoling it out. We can say, and here's the first new thing that we're going to look at right here, is local storage and then dot set item, and we give it a name, username, or whatever you want to call it, and then we give it a value. Well, what's the value? Name.value, right? That will store in local storage Beavis or whatever they type. Now, we're not done yet, but let's just start there. So let's clear this out. And right now, if I type local storage, you can see there's nothing there. But if I add Beavis and click save, local storage, now you can see in local storage is this Beavis, right? But just to prove the point, I'm going to copy our URL here. I'm going to close the browser and reopen it. Go back to the page and look in the console. And if I look here and I type local storage, it's still there. There's Beavis still right there. Okay, so that's the starting point. Now we want to do something a little bit more useful than that, obviously, right? So how about we start with this? As soon as you load the page, we can check to see if local storage. Now notice here on line 10, I said set the item. I'm setting a value in local storage and I'm calling it username. And again, if we go look here, you can see that it's just an object, right? Just an object literal username Beavis. Well, I want to see in local storage dot get item, and I want to see if username exists, right? Let's pause here. I'm going to comment that out for a minute. And right here, if I said local storage dot get item Beavis, or sorry, username, it gives me back Beavis, right? So I want to see if that is set. Let's try a different one. Local storage dot get item chicken, right? Is there a thing in local storage called chicken? And there is not. It just returns null. Well, if you recall, in JavaScript, null is false. Everything, like any string, is true. So if this returns Beavis or something, then it will return true. That will be true. So if local storage, well, then let's change what the H1 says. So we'll say heading dot inner text equals welcome Beavis, or not Beavis, sorry, welcome, and then we're going to concatenate local storage dot get item username. That's it. So now it's already stored there, right? If I were to come back to this page If I were to just refresh this page, it says welcome Beavis. And if I were to go to this, reopen the browser, I just closed it. I don't have any other instances of a browser open. Reopen it. And when I come back here, it still says welcome Beavis because that's stored in local storage. Now, once they enter their name, I want to hide the form right here, this part here, and then I want to show the note and the reset button. So if we start off here, I actually have style down here, the button, the form, and the sticky hidden. So if you go to the page right now, everything's hidden. Well, the only time I want to show the form is if their username doesn't exist. So let's go back here. And so we're saying if there is a username, then great, we don't need to use the form. We don't need to show the form. But what we do want to do is show the sticky note, right? Well, that was sticky right there. So I can just say sticky.style, go back to our manipulating CSS with JavaScript lectures back like the first week of the semester, I think. And we're going to say display equals block. So now if I go refresh the page, because we have something in local storage, that note displays, right? The other thing I want to do is the same thing with the reset button. So the btn style display block. And so now when I reload it, it should show that. So now let's go ahead and clear. We go in here, local storage.clear. That wiped out the local storage just now. So if I reload the page, everything's gone. So I want the form to display in that instance. So if there is no username, then I want to display the form, right? So else, we just want to say sticky. I guess I never grabbed the form apparently, so we need that. Let form equal document.query selector form. There we go. So now down here, my else, I can say form.style.display equals block. So now when I reload it, because there was no value stored in local storage for this page, then the web form shows up. But remember, once I click on the save, it's going to store that value, but the page is already loaded. So the sticky note's not going to be there. So I'm going to do Beavis and save it. And the sticky note doesn't show up, but the local storage is now populated. There's Beavis there again. If I were to refresh the page, then the sticky note will be there, but that's not a good user experience, right? So we want that note to show up as soon as they type their name in. So local storage clear, okay, reload. And so what we want to do here, these two things right here, right? We want to do those when they actually enter their name, right? So let's just add those here. We can, whoa, that's not what I wanted to do. So here we go on the save button right here, the submit button, right? We have an event listener. It listens for clicks. And we have this fun little arrow function. What does it do? It stores the username they entered into local storage. It shows the sticky, it shows the button, and we want to hide the form there. So now we got the main functionality pretty much done almost. So if I refresh the page, there's no local storage right now. I type in Beavis and I save it. Now the form went away and the note has appeared. The only thing that's missing is adding welcome Beavis right there. And we can do this right here. And I don't actually have to grab it out of local storage, even though it is there. But we actually have it as the name.value. So I might as well just use it because it's shorter, because we just barely got it if we're in this part of the code, right? Okay, so one last thing, let's clear it. Local storage.clear. And then we reload. And now, as soon as I type my name, Beavis, it says welcome Beavis, and now I can type a note. Well, notice here that it's not clear that it's typable, right? I have to click on it before that happens. So we want to make sure that we set the focus on that. And the way you do that, that was the paragraph, which I believe we called note.focus. You do that, and let's clear the storage, refresh the page, Beavis. Notice now there's a cursor there blinking. Okay, now I can start typing. Now, before we start saving the contents of the note, let's just back up and make sure we understand what we've done. This is a very simple thing. This whole first 7 lines here is just getting the stuff out of the HTML, right? It's just grabbing all these elements here and putting them in variables that we can use, right? So kind of ignore that. We're just grabbing some global variables there. But then the first thing we really do that's useful here is we look in local storage, and we try to get an item called username. If that exists, right, it will return some value, either null or some string. If it returns a string, then that evaluates to true. If it returns null, it evaluates to false. If it's true, then change the heading to say welcome, whatever the name is, out of local storage, and then also show the sticky note and show the reset button. If, however, there is nothing in local storage, then we show the form and nothing else. So that's the first thing we do. Second thing we do, we add an event listener listening for the click on the username here. Well, think about this for a minute. We don't need to do this if they've already got their name there. So we can actually move this into the else statement here, right? The only reason we want to add a click event handler to the save button is if the form is actually there. Well, right now the form isn't there, so we don't need to have that click handler created. So let's clear the local storage again, refresh, and this will still work. The name is John, and there it is. Welcome, John. It created the note there. But if I come to this page fresh, we didn't create a click handler, which saves a little bit of time and resource, right? So there's no need to put this outside of the else statement. So that's it. We just have an if and an else right here, right? The last thing we want to do is now, as far as local storage stuff, is capturing whatever the note is and then have access to it later if I come back to this page. Right now, if I come back, that note is gone, okay? So what I need to do is put a click handler on the paragraph, all right? So now this can be a little bit tricky here. We could argue that, oh, we only need to put the click handler in our if or our else, but turns out it's going to be in both, right? Here's why. If I come to the page fresh and I've already logged in, if you will, that's for the want of a better way to put it, like it is right now, then that means this code displays. And that means the sticky note is showing, which means I need to have an event handler for the sticky note here in my if statement. But if that is not the case, so let's clear it, I refresh, and then I go to log in, we're actually going to be in the else statement right here. And once I log in, then the sticky note will be there, and I need an event handler. So I'm going to need the event handler no matter what. The other thing you might notice real quick, when I come back after I'm already logged in, notice I don't have my cursor inside the note like that. So we need to put that in our if statement here, which will be p.focus. Sorry, not p.focus, but note. So now when I refresh, you'll see that our cursor comes back. Okay, so let's go ahead and create this event handler for note. So note.add event listener, and we're looking for key up. Once the key has been lifted up, then we're going to do whatever, using our favorite syntax again. What are we going to do? Well, just every time they remove their finger from a key, we're just going to store whatever's there into local storage, right? Simple enough. So local storage dot set item, and we'll call it user notes. And what's going to go there? It's going to be the note dot inner text. So let's just start there, and we'll refresh the page, and I'm going to say hello there. If I come over here, local storage, you can see that now we have two things. Again, it's just an object, right? An object literal. There's a username called Beavis and their user notes called hello there. That's it. But we come back to the page, the note's gone, right? So we have to make sure we reload the local storage and stick it in that paragraph there. That's pretty straightforward. So when we show the sticky note, which you can see is here and here, right? On line 12 and line 21. But on line 21 here, we're showing the sticky note for the first time. So there wouldn't be any content in there. It's here where the sticky note already existed because they've already logged in. Now, they may have never filled anything out, but remember, this means they've already typed their name in. And so if they've already typed the name in, we just automatically show the sticky note, whether it's got content in it or not. Otherwise, we wait for them to put their name in, and then once they put their name in and they click the button, then the sticky note shows up. Well, if the sticky note's just now showing up, how could it have any content in it, right? So we don't need to do it down here, but we do need to do it up here. Easy enough. All we have to do is say note.inner text equals local storage dot get item user notes. Now, what if there are no user notes? Well, let's find out. Okay, let's go ahead and reset it. local storage.clear, refresh. So we type in our name. I type the node. Oh, let's back up here. Let's not leave a note. In fact, let's clear it. I didn't mean to type there. Refresh, Beavis. Now I'm not going to type any note. Okay. I'm going to refresh the page, and you'll notice I didn't get any error, right? When I refreshed the page, this code ran because I was already logged in, right? You can see I was already logged in. And so it said, welcome Beavis, and it showed the sticky note. It showed the reset button, and it set the inner text of the paragraph, which is note, equal to the user notes, which don't exist. So it basically set it to null, which is fine. But now let's go ahead and type something. Hello there. And then if I copy this, I'm going to close the browser. Notice I didn't have to click save or anything. Come back, and the note's still there. If I refresh the page, the note stays there. Because as I typed, it went into local storage with every keystroke it went in. The last thing we're going to do is just make this reset button work. That's it. We've already got it, right? The button is right there. So let's just put an event handler on that. And again, that's only going to be here and here. So it's in the if and the else. So same old, btn add event listener, and it's going to be on a click, and it's going to be an arrow function. And what do? We say local storage.clear. So this says local storage.clear, but what is that going to do? If I refresh the page here, everything's still in local storage. I hit reset. The page doesn't look like it changed, but it did clear the local storage. And if I refresh the page, you can see that it's all gone. Well, we don't want them to hit the reset button and have no user experience, right? So we want to make sure that we reset the page for them. So we could reload the page, or we can just switch out the display nones and display blocks, right? Easy enough.
Super easy, barely an inconvenience.
So after we do clear, we're going to just do these right here, basically. So we hide the sticky note, so none. We hide the reset button, none. And we show the form, block. And that is it. So let's refresh it, log in. Let's make a note. Don't forget to feed the dog. Notice I didn't hit enter. I'm not clicking save. I'm not doing anything. Okay. That's already been saved automatically as I was typing. And again, I'll copy this URL so I don't have to retype it, but I'm going to close my browser, reopen it, and you can see there's my note still. If I click reset, it logs me out. Oh, and I forgot to change that back to welcome, right? Because if I look in local storage here, you will see there's nothing there. Local storage. There's nothing in there, right? The only reason it says welcome Beavis is just because we assigned it to that and we never changed it back. So that's easy enough. We'll just say heading dot inner text equals welcome. Welcome. That's it. So reload the page. Beavis, Bravis, whatever. The note is don't forget to feed the cat. No saving, no pushing buttons. If I refresh the page, it's still there. If I close the browser, reopen it, it's still there. But if I hit reset, it's going to remove the note, remove the welcome, and just say welcome without my name and start over. That is it. That's the entire app. So 40 lines of code for a simple little app here that's not that useful, but it's pretty straightforward. Create all the variables we need to access all of the components in here. That's not super exciting, right? It's pretty standard stuff. Then we just have basically one if statement and a couple of little event handlers, right? The if statement just checks to see if there's something in local storage. And if there is, we go get it and we display it. If there's not, okay, well then we add a click handler and wait for them to fill out the form that we started displaying. Once all that's done, we create a click handler for when they type stuff into the note field, which is that just the paragraph. And we add an event handler to the reset button. When they reset, we just move everything, clear out local storage. So there are three functions that we learned today. That's local lowercase L, it looks capital, but it's lowercase. Local storage dot clear set item, which is you give it some name and some value, and then local storage get item, and you give it the name. Those are the three we looked at. That's it. Everything else should be pretty standard stuff. I mean, we were doing this on day one. Event handlers we were doing on week 1-ish. So there's not a whole lot new here, just those three functions. So that's it for this one, folks. Thanks for coming to class. And as usual, take a look at the questions on the screen. If you can answer those, then you're ready for the quiz. And more importantly, you've learned everything you need to know from this video. We'll see you next time, folks.